One of the oldest but most absurd charges made against the Holy Quran by its critics is that the Quran wrongly imputes to the Jews a belief that the Prophet Ezra was the Son of God. This is a reference to verse 30 of Surah At-Tawbah, verse 930, which says, the Jews say Uzair is the son of Allah, and the Christians say the Messiah is the son of Allah. These are merely verbal assertions in imitations of the sayings of the believers who preceded them. May Allah ruin them. How did they turn away from the truth? This apparent problem only arises because of the misunderstanding that Uzair in the Qur'an is the equivalent of the name of Ezra, who is a very important prophet in Judaism, who is believed to have restored the Torah, but about whom we can find no evidence in any Jewish scriptures or commentaries to believe that any group of Jews regarded him as the Son of God. We find in the Quran a completely accurate description of references to the Bible, a very, very deep knowledge by the author of the Quran about where and when biblical events took place. So there's no anachronism, there's no geographical displacement. We don't have the characters of the New Testament at the time of the Old Testament. We don't have personalities in Egypt who instead are in Palestine. Everything is exactly as it should be, showing that a mistake about the basic beliefs of Jews of that nature simply would not have happened, even without assuming a divine origin of the Quran. Moreover, we find that the author of the Quran has a deep knowledge of the Old Testament and indeed of Hebrew, as Dr. Ally points out. For instance, the Quran in Surah 11 verse 71 says about Ibrahim a.s. wife Sarah, his wife was standing nearby and laughed. We gave her good news of Isaac and after him of Jacob. Isaac comes from the Hebrew Yishak, which literally means he laughs or he will laugh, and Yaqub comes from the Hebrew root qab, meaning to follow. And the verse concerned mentions both senses of laughing and following, demonstrating that the author was aware of the Hebrew etymology of the words. So, if Prophet Ezra is not Uzair, then who is? According to distinguished historian of Islam and Judaism, Rabbi Ben Abrahamson, the reference to Uzair is not a name but a title. Indeed, we find the name Uzair or Uzair, which is the Hebrew version of Uzair, meaning helper, in the Bible, and we find it mentioned in Jewish commentaries and scriptures as indicating the Messiah in more places than one. The rabbi notes that during the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him, Nehemiah bin Hushal, who was the ruler of Jews in the Persian Empire known as the Exarch, had the title Sayyidina ben Dawood. He goes on to explain how and why Nehemiah would have been called Uzair and regarded as the son of God by some Jews at the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him. I believe that he was called son of God because he was an Exarch, descendant of David ben David, whose grandfather was crucified. He was thought to be the Messiah. When the Persians invaded in 614 CE, many Christians converted to Judaism. I speculate that they took Nehemiah to be the Christ. It is therefore clear that there was a messianic claimant who would have been regarded by some as the Son of God, a Jewish claimant who would have for the first time taken control of Jerusalem, who would have been known by the title Sayyid, Ezra, or in Arabic Uzair, and who would have been regarded by a group of Jews at least to be the promised Messiah and the Son of God, just as the Quran notes. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Thank you.